Welcome to On the Spectrum. I'm your host, Terri Matthews. This is a show where we inform you, entertain you, and yes, educate you about all things autism. We like to call it prescription TV. Joining me today is Syleena Johnson, who is a host, an actress, a singer, a songwriter, a diva, and a mother with a kid that's on the spectrum. And more importantly, she's also my friend. So I'm so happy to have her here so she can share her journey with you. And we're excited to talk about all these things you have going on today and your discovery about autism.
Yes. Hey, girl. Hey, Terri, what you doing, girl?
Listen, I was like, can we really get Syleena to come from Atlanta? This was so important to me, Syleena, because someone of your caliber, at your level, all the things that you do, it's so difficult at times for people to even understand that you actually have a kid on the spectrum, right? Mm-hmm. And what that looks like for you as a mom. But kind of backing up, I wanna revisit, you and I have had this conversation in reference to what it feels like with having a child diagnosed on the spectrum. Mm-hmm. I want you to tell our viewers, what did you feel? What was that moment like for you when you had Kingston diagnosed?
Well, first of all, it's important that I'm here to share my story because, like you said, you know, just because I'm an entertainer and I have all these things going doesn't mean that I'm a mother first.
Amen.
Doesn't mean that I don't have emotions and that I'm not a human being. So
you're human?
I'm human.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes I gotta check, but today I'm human. So when I was definitely human when I got that diagnosis, I'll tell you that. When I got the diagnosis that Kingston was autistic, it was very out of body experience, very like can't believe it. Like inside myself, I was like listening to her while she's talking to me and telling me, you know, what's what, the developmental pediatrician.
Yes.
And but it was like my body had gone, my spirit had gone and got in the car and was like ready to go. Like I didn't want to hear anything else that she had to say. I wanted to go home, curl up, you know, just cry and just feel sorry for myself and him and everybody else, you know. And then I didn't know, I wasn't educated on any of this. So the first thing I'm thinking is, what am I going to do? And then I was thinking, not my child, you know. Then I'm thinking, well, this is what you said, but he's not going to be that way and I'm going to do everything that I can. You know, so it was just a myriad of different emotions that I expressed. But I definitely just felt, you know, if I could use one word to just explain them all, lost.
It's funny because you and I have had this personal conversation about that feeling of being lost. And I think oftentimes, you know, just for the audience to understand, you were married. You know, Kingston has an older brother, right? Life was going on in your life,
moving and grooving.
Right? So what would you say to other parents that are out there? I don't know, what I don't know about your story was, were you in that room alone with the pediatrician in Kingston, or was your husband available during that time? Like, that's a big issue. Sometimes we're by ourselves when we hear that diagnosis.
Which is even tougher. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I would have done if my husband was not there, if I did not, along this journey, have a partner to have my husband to go through this with me. Not to say, oh, I'm glad he's going through this. I'm not glad that anyone is going through this. Mm-hmm. But I am grateful to have my husband with me, because at least I have someone to talk to and, you know, go through this with. My husband was there when we both got the diagnosis. And I think that, you know, even though you know how you felt, I think that he might have taken it worse than me.
Did he express it?
No. He's not the type
so
of
you just
person.
kind of, I'm a woman, my intuition, we married, I got you, you got me, you know, and you knew that he just inside.
I knew that it had to take him out, because up to the time that he was diagnosed, I knew something was different. Mm-hmm. I knew that he was not. A friend of mine, Mila, from 702, Mila, you know, Music Soul Child, and Mila, they have a son, Zach, is also on the spectrum.
Right.
And Mila and I did R&B Divas together, and she has a foundation, and we went to this party that she threw, like a concert that she threw, and she was talking to us about his symptoms, and I remember listening to her going, Kingston has those same symptoms, you know.
Wow.
And I said it to her, but then I thought to myself, well, that's insensitive to try and take the, you know, to say that. Maybe that's taken away. This is about Zach, you know. But then I realized that he had those same symptoms. Mm-hmm. And so she was the first person I called when I got the diagnosis. So I kind of felt it, you know, the walking on the tippy toes, the stopping eating, the not being able to speak, or not being able to, but just not speaking, just retracting from everything out of nowhere. So I kind of saw these things, and then his teachers told me he was rocking back and forth. So Kiwan, I would tell him these things, my husband, and he would go, "Oh, that's just, how kids are." So I think that he was in denial, which is why I think that it hit him harder than it hit me, but it was there already in me.
Right.
I just didn't want to submit to that.
Right.
But I don't think that he could have ever thought that this was going to be the case.
What would you say, that moment of hearing the diagnosis, I too felt that lost out of body experience. It's a feeling, I felt like my child, in my case, had died, that he was physically here, but the little boy that I had known had just disappeared. And in my mind, when I had to deal with Jaden's dad, he always stayed at a distance. He listened from afar. So oftentimes I felt like I had to deal with this a lot on my own and very much in denial. He'll grow out of that. That's from other kids.
Right.
It's always this blame. But what would you say was that point that you learned to embrace that? I mean, when he was first diagnosed, did you say, yep, I heard you say you went through all of these emotions, but when was that turning point where you just really understood, like, my son is autistic and that's what I have to accept and I have to get him the best help from here moving forward? Was it ever that point? Are you even there even now?
I'm not there. Where I am is I'm going to do what I have to do to make sure that he has everything that he needs. But I'm still not accepting that is what, autism is what he has, it's not who he is. However, that's what they say. There's what they say, and then there's what God has for him. I'm just that type of person that believes that anybody can overcome anything at any time. And I just feel like it doesn't make him different, it makes him special. But I still have not accepted, oh, my child is different, or not different, but oh, my child has autism, the way that others view what autism is.
So what do you demand out of yourself as a woman, or even out of your family? Like, what is it, what helps you be able to deal with those moments, those meltdowns, right? That remind us, because we have these moments, right? We've been around each other and our kids have been around each other and they're operating and things are fine. And for a moment you think life is going to be normal. And then all of a sudden, whatever that trigger is, no matter, you don't even know how it happened. You just know it happens.
Yeah.
And when it does, you're like, oh my God. We've had those late night text messages to each other, and as you've seen Jaden running around here today in Pokemon underwear and wants to go out.
That doesn't bother me, right? He's doing his thing to me. And maybe because I'm used to, the abnormal. Maybe somebody else thinks that's abnormal. But to me, he's just being a kid, in my opinion. And I don't even feel like that's abnormal. I feel like my 11-year-old walks around with his underwear on. I have a picture of Kingston with Captain Underpants outfits and a cape. So
that is pretty normal.
This is what they do.
Atypical behavior.
This is kids.
That's kind of men behavior in general. Grown, they walk around with underwear.
Kiwan is 44. I'm trying to.
He better not have no Captain Underoos.
He doesn't have Captain Underpants.
Okay.
But he does have underwear.
Okay, that's good.
So and then that's another thing. I try not to. Everything that Kingston does, I try to understand that, what? Regular kids do that, or regular,
Atypical,
all kids do this, because it's tough, because some things he may do that are behavioral issues that real kids should get spanked for, or popped or whatever, because I don't beat my kids with belts and stuff. But other things you have to be able to determine, no, this is not that time. He's having a moment.
So when he has those moments, those meltdowns, like, what do? What is the space and place that you go in? Because again, we've had these late night texts and we've had this I hate autism moments.
Yeah.
Like when it really roars up in your household and your back is against the wall, you're already managing and doing everything you possibly can. And we know that autism isn't nice. It comes when it shows up when it wants to show up.
And it doesn't care what you're doing.
And
and lately, so my older son, I bought him a dog. Well, I got him a dog for his birthday. So I thought it would be good for Kingston.
So you got time for a dog?
Well, no, the dog is already trained.
Okay.
Let's be all the way clear. Okay. We took him from someone who needed him to go somewhere else because she's getting married or whatever. But he's a small dog. He's a Yorkie, little cute little dog. He gets on my nerves. He barks a lot. But KJ wanted a dog. So I wanted to teach him responsibility, and I wanted to test Kingston's sensory issues.
With the dog.
Because one of the things that I do to Kingston is, like, if they say, oh, kids don't like sound, they don't like the loud, I take them where it's loud.
Yeah, me too.
Whatever they say he's not supposed to do, I go take him and make him adjust. So I have a dog in the house. It is very difficult because the dog is almost like a baby, a new baby. So Kingston is the youngest. So if the dog is by me, he starts to act out. He's been throwing tantrums probably every other day now. So literally and he's starting school and it's new. Really? So it's been very difficult for me lately. And he's getting stronger and bigger and taller. So I had to try to do more ABA therapy sessions. I don't think anybody will ever understand what it's like to be downstairs in your kitchen and you hear your child screaming to the top of his lungs while the ABA therapist is trying to wrestle him down, or trying to, because, once they don't comply with something they're supposed to do, she has to take his hands and help him pick it up to show him, this
is how you have to do it.
Yeah, and he might just, after that, Kingston might just lose it. So she might just be sitting there while because I've gone up there to check because I'm afraid, just as a mother, you can't, it's tough.
Absolutely.
But it's been times where I just sit on the stairs and just cry because they're up there and I'm talking 2 hours straight, 2-3 hours straight of screaming. And people are coming in like, what's going on? I'm just like, oh, everybody just, that's how you have to be. Just be like, just nobody pay attention.
I don't think anybody understands where that wears on you, right?
Oh, it's awful.
And in addition to that, Kingston has a brother, just like Jaden has a sister.
Brother.
So I don't know about you, but for me, I felt like I was constantly educating and also dealing with this whole sibling thing because at times they felt like I was easier on Jaden than I was, on them.
KJ has those moments. I just have to sit down. And KJ has a designated day, we call it date day. And so while Kingston would be in occupational therapy, I would take KJ to Whole Foods and we would have these conversations. And I would explain to him, you're his protector, you're the big brother, I can't do this without you, and not
That's a good strategy.
Not to put pressure on him, but just to let him know, I need you, we're in this together, and you're all that he has. So Kingston's been going crazy lately and KJ's getting frustrated. So I had to take him to the side the other day and say, KJ, he's not doing well because of his dog and this, that, and the third, and explain it to him. So he's like, okay. I said, you have to be nice to him. It's tough for him, But I have a very, very good, my son he's a very, very good big brother and he's a sweetheart. So it's good for him. He's been very good, but I don't know how he really feels because he doesn't communicate very well. He's much like his father. So he'll say, I'll ask him, is he okay? And he'll be like, But I know, you're a mother, something's wrong. So so basically, it's very, very, very tough because you're basically trying to read minds all day. One, you're trying to read your son, Kingston's mind, because his issue is communication.
Right.
So I'm just trying to figure out what he means and says all day. Two, nobody else wants to communicate about what they feel because they think it's going to be too hard on me. So I'm trying to figure out what they're thinking.
That's an important point.
Yeah.
It's that point in reference to making sure that the reading of the minds and making sure that you can communicate with your family. Even the time that you have to take. We talked about taking away time for another sibling.
Yeah.
What about taking away time for your relationship?
Or yourself.
Well, amen.
Hello, somebody. That's unheard of. Yeah. So, and just to take a nap, and you feel, and that's another thing.
We don't even think about those little things.
Mommy guilt is probably one of the biggest problems that I deal with from the time I open my eyes to the time I close them daily.
And what do you mean by mommy guilt? Because I think it's important for the audience out there to understand that. We all go through that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they understand that. They think, oh, I see her on camera.
She's
I see her
doing
on
great.
stage.
Yeah.
Everything's fine in her life. She can handle it all. But that's not necessarily the case.
Mommy guilt is everything that you do for yourself, you feel guilty. Anywhere that you go, if you go to work, you're guilty. Anytime that I'm not spending with Kingston or any of my child or my husband, I'm guilty. I'm guilty all day. If I sit down for 20 minutes just to sit down, I feel guilty all day long, to the point where it actually made me fall into a deep depression where I just stopped wanting to do anything. And I would just go to one spot in my house and I would just sit there the entire time and not move. And when I went to the doctor, I was telling my doctor, just a routine checkup, he said, oh, you're depressed. So I had to be put on antidepressants. And I'm in my mind, I'm thinking everything on the outside is going great. Oh, you have this going for yourself, this going for yourself. But the inside of Syleena is just closed for business.
I think that is so important for people to know, because again, I think just as women, we have this level of strength, but a lot of us are very closed and masked. And when you think about social media and all the stuff that's out there, we look like we got it all together.
All the time.
But people don't realize, no, we get depressed. And just because you might be able to pay your bills this month or do these things that you're doing in your life doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not hurting. I'm not dealing with things internally. There are struggles with my other children. There are struggles with my marriage. There are struggles with myself.
Not to
and
mention
I'm the last, your job, your career, whatever it is that you're doing in life. And I think the biggest challenge that we all have when it comes to even just accepting, just getting to that point, like you said, I'm still dealing with accepting. In my case, I feel like I understand that Jaden's autistic. I feel like I'm constantly planning for the future. Like, I don't know what it looks like, but I'm planning for the worst. But then I shouldn't be thinking about the worst because God is great.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's this constant struggle, and it's exhausting.
Exhausting, and causes anxiety and depression.
So what would you say, as we wrap up, what would you say to the parents out there that the mother, that might be sitting there, the father, or the relationships, or anything in reference to getting a child newly diagnosed, and what they should be doing for themselves to make sure that they don't go through some of these struggles, or at least somewhat avoid them if at all possible?
Well, I'll tell you, the number one thing that keeps me going every single day is God.
Amen.
A strong foundation in knowing that He is who He is, be still and know that I am. So for me, just personally, no, I have not accepted it. I don't know if I ever will, because I don't know if I want to.
Okay.
I don't know if I ever want to accept my child has autism to the standards of what people think and what that is in the world.
Right.
But I will accept that he is an angel. I will accept that God gave him to me for a reason. And I will accept that he is a teaching tool.
Amen.
And I will tell parents that, if you have a child who has autism, spelled AUWETISM, I would say that think of your child as an opportunity to learn patience, to learn true love, to learn how to be open, to learn how to be tolerant. And in just having those concepts alone, you can use that to apply to everything else in your life. You can use those same things to apply to your husband, to your other children, to your mom, to your sisters, to your friends. Kingston teaches me how to be a better person.
I say that about Jaden all the time.
There's no way you can be a bad person and have a child on the spectrum.
No.
God would not give you a child on the spectrum if you were not a good person. They're different because they're special.
Right.
And they're not supposed to be understood. We don't understand God either.
No.
So he comes straight from him.
I'm a firm believer that God makes no mistakes. He's
Absolutely.
intentional about everything.
Absolutely.
We have to be spoken into existence.
Yes.
So in order for us to be spoken into existence, he didn't speak an accident.
No.
These
are human emotions.
Right.
What Kingston being born, Jaden being born, that's spiritual. They didn't come in here. We think they came out, of our bodies, but they were birthed through him. They came out through the spirit man. They're going to teach us how to be better people, stronger people, because there's work in us that God needed to be done, and work in everyone that is attached to our children that needs to be done. So that's why children on the spectrum are not the same, because everyone's issues are different.
Yeah. That's
So if I'm a mom who needs to learn patience, my child's going to test mine. If I'm a mom who needs to learn tolerance or acceptance, this child is going to teach you that.
Oh my God. Well, I've had a whole lot of lessons. I needed patience, tolerance, love, not to be judgmental.
And I'm failing right now on all my tests. So I just got to keep taking them. Because patience.
We're going to get there.
My God.
We're going to get there.
He tests, he tap dances every day on that last nerve.
But I want to say thank you so much, because I know sometimes it's not easy. I know you're open with sharing at least your story, but we know sometimes the world doesn't always want to hear it, right? We want to keep things looking perfect.
They need to.
And you've been an advocate, and you're strong about this. Like, listen, you're going to hear this, and this is the changes that you need to make, and I'm not in this alone. There are so many of us that are dealing with kids that are on the spectrum. So I want to thank you so much for coming here today. And, I am just so amazed with all the things that you're able to do. And I'm so amazed with how you share your story so openly, and that you don't hold anything back. You don't hold like, yes, I went through depression. No, my house isn't always fine. Yes, this stretched me in areas of my marriage. And, I just pray that more people continue to open up that way, because I think you humanize things. You help people understand that, you know what, I can get through this. I can continue to live life. I can execute my dreams. It might take me a little longer than the average person.
It'll take me a while.
But but you can do it.
Yes, thank you. And I want to thank you too, just for, being who you are, and what you've gone through, and being so strong and successful and amazing, and being a voice.
Thank you.
Because it takes women like you for women like me to say, okay, see, if she can say it, then I can too.
Thank you for sharing that, because this journey is not easy.
It's very hard, but that's okay
easy.
though, because only the strong survive. Too much is owed, much is required. Sorry.
Amen.
You were chosen. You got to take it up with the Lord, what you want him to do. Okay?
I'm trying not to cry.
Me too. That's why I'm trying to crack jokes. So you like crying, Terry. I don't like crying. You have a good time crying. I don't want this crying. But you know what? When you cry, in every tear, did you know that you release 26 toxic chemicals?
Did you have time to read that in your schedule?
Iyanla Vanzant said that in her book.
Oh my God. I didn't even realize that.
So actually you're cleansing. Crying is cleansing. It's good.
So speaking of book, in my mind, I've been on this journey of continuing to write things, but never really publishing them. So I published this journal, and of course, I'm going to give you one.
Yay!
It's called the I Will. It's a 30-day devotional journal of self-reflection and transparency. And it's about me changing my language from I can to I will, with the understanding that I will because I put Christ first, right? And knowing that he has no limits. And so I think that this is extremely important. We don't journal enough. We don't write enough. And even I've learned in journaling, we're not really honest even in our journals. No. We're worried about somebody finding it, or really having to deal and dig and be deep with ourselves. Like, no, you really are messed up in this area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or this really does need to be fixed in your relationships. So, this is important for me, and I hope that you get out of it what I've gotten out of it. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story about your family and being open. Thank you for your vulnerability, and I look forward to us continue to do some awesome things together.
Yes.
This is not the first, and it won't be the last, right?
Correct.
Thank you so much for joining us on this section of Let's Talk. We hope that you enjoyed this conversation. For more information, please log on to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/onthespectrumtm, or download any of our resources at www.onthespectrum.tv. That's all the time we have. See you next time on The Spectrum.